All right, President Trump says he has no intention of removing Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth from his position. The president was asked about Hegseth following the ousting of Mike Waltz as National Security Advisor. Both men are facing backlash for their involvement in the Signal chat scandal.
Are you looking for a new Secretary of Defense?
No, not even a little bit. No. Pete's going to be great.
His job is safe right now?
We're doing a fantastic job against the Houthis, who like blowing ships up and watching them sink in the ocean. We're hitting them very hard. No, he's doing a very good job.
His job is safe right now?
Totally safe.
So Jonathan, obviously, he also said this about Mike Waltz. The president's not somebody to speak his mind. When he's thinking about getting rid of somebody, you know, he's not going to say it on Meet the Press. There's no evidence that he's thinking about that right now, though I've got to say my reporting suggests if he's not completely fed up with the Secretary of Defense, everybody around him are really tired of cleaning up this guy's messes, going all the way back to the transition where he wasn't upfront with him about, you know, all of his past problems.
There are some very powerful voices in the West Wing who are fed up with Hegseth and would have already started floating possible replacement names. President Trump, not there yet, but he, you know, I've been told he has privately been very frustrated. They've had a couple of terse phone calls. He alluded to that in the interview with The Atlantic that he did a week or so back. He's made a point of saying he spoke to Hegseth. And that I think an underrated aspect of this is now that he's named Mike Waltz to be ambassador to the UN, Waltz is going to have to go through confirmation hearings. Signalgate's going to come up. That's not going to be great for Waltz. It's also not going to be great for Hegseth. Like, Democrats are going to have the ability to talk about this, what happened again, and note that it was Hegseth, and Hegseth alone, who actually put the sensitive information.
And by the way, the way those confirmation hearings go, they're usually better to their own. We saw that with John Radcliffe. I suspect Mike Waltz will probably come out of that better than the Secretary of Defense.
It very well may be. We'll see when that happens in the weeks ahead. The president also spoke about the search for Waltz's replacement, a new national security advisor, a role that currently Secretary of State Marco Rubio also holding, at least for now.
We're hearing some potential names. Stephen Miller's name, one of your longtime, most loyal aides. His name has been talked about as a potential national security advisor. Is he someone you're looking at?
Well, I'd love to have Stephen there, but that would be a downgrade. Stephen is much higher in the totem pole than that, in my opinion. I have everybody calling. Everybody wants to be a part of this administration. So at some point we'll, you know, probably do that. You know, there's a theory, Henry Kissinger did both. There's a theory that you don't need two people, but I think I have some really great people that could do a good job.
So Secretary Rubio could continue to have both jobs indefinitely?
He could, yeah, he could. But I think he even would like to probably see, because it is a little bit different. But in the meantime, he'll handle it. And I think Mike, if that goes forward, you know, he still has to get approved. But I think Mike will do a very good job at the United Nations.
Richard, two notes here. First of all, the president says it would be a downgrade for Stephen Miller to become national security advisor. He says he's a top totem pole as he is. That's true. Everyone you talk to in the West Wing, he has the loudest, most important voice in the building. We saw that in the Signalgate chats where there was some dissension about what to do. Miller came in, said no. The president was clear, and everyone fell into line, including the vice president, I'll note. But you said, as we were talking about this, the idea of Rubio holding two jobs, you said during the bite it was a terrible idea. Tell us why.
Two reasons. One is they're two fundamentally different jobs. State Department, you know, Secretary of State has to represent the United States, be an advocate for, say, diplomacy. National Security Advisor is not an advocate so much as an integrator. Due process, honest broker. It's a little bit like playing tennis against somebody, and they're playing against you, and they're calling the lines. Not a lot of people can do both. So to put Marco Rubio in that position, I think, is impossible structurally. Second of all, you don't have time to do both. If you're the Secretary of State, the last time I checked, you're the chief diplomat of the United States. You got to do things like travel. How do you travel and sit next to the president, which a national security advisor has to do 24/7? So this is an untenable situation. Yes, Henry Kissinger did it for a while. It was, shall we say, a concentration of power in one set of hands that was unfortunate. This should not be allowed to.
Well,
this is not a shot, by the way, at Marco Rubio. This is just a bad idea.
Well, you go back to the Biden administration, and, I know you talked to a lot of foreign leaders. I did as well. They would say, the Secretary of State, Secretary of State Blinken, they used for in certain ways, talked to him certain ways. Jake Sullivan was more of a, here are the 4 things I need. How can we get it done? And Jake was the one that sorted through all of that and got it done.
Also, this is a president who needs to hear separate voices. He tends, but it needs to be done in an orderly way. His instincts, shall we say, are not towards process. To have Marco Rubio on both jobs further dilutes any type of discipline process. One, it shouldn't last, and I would say probably it can last, and it may actually, where you began the conversation, it may actually strengthen the hands of one Stephen Miller, simply because he then allows him to be the enforcer, the most dominant voice on policy. That almost there's no longer a gap between Homeland Security and national security, and it gives him a really, really powerful voice.
I mean, he does, and he enforces what the president tells him to do, right?
Right, so it becomes even more top-down administration, but that is not how presidents get well served. He's basically lost an important independent voice here, and this it's not good for ultimately President Trump has to understand this is not good for him.
All right, still.